the real secret to success and manifesting your dreams and desires. It's Kute here, nationally best-selling author of the book, The Magic of Surrender. What is the key to success? There's so much information out there right now on YouTube, on Instagram, so many different philosophies telling you this is the key and that's the key and this is the key and that's the key and this is the key. It can be so confusing. Do one thing one moment, do another thing one moment, then you end up confusing yourself with things that are actually the opposite. But what is the key? How much are we really in control of our lives? How much can we really manifest our reality? What I have found over the years, as someone that's created a level of success, is that for me, the most important key to success, true success, authentic success, has been surrender. Surrender is the secret. Surrender is the password to freedom. Surrender is the key to your next level. Because one way of creating your life is to try to make it happen, to manifest it, to go for what you want. And we're told in books, in seminars, know what you want, know what you want, know what you want. So you get clear on what you want. You want that car, you want that house, you want that thing. And you go for it only to, number one, when you achieve it, realize it's not what you really want and you feel dissatisfied. Number two, you go for it to achieve it, to then feel dissatisfied and realize that what you thought you wanted was not what you really wanted, that what you thought you wanted was simply what you thought you wanted based on who you thought you were. And many times our goals and our dreams and our desires are projections, not authentic, but they're projections of unmet needs from childhood. We weren't loved, dad wasn't there, mom wasn't around, we didn't get those needs met, we were bullied in school, we feel insecure, we feel not enough, we feel unlovable, we feel unworthy. So we project into the future. If I can achieve that goal, and we set a goal, if I can get that goal, if I can get that body, if I can get those followers, if I can get that fame, then I'm going to finally be enough. Yet nothing outside of yourself that you achieve will have you feel enough if you don't feel enough within yourself. So we've been taught to ask the question, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? But we're not really encouraged to ask the question, who is the I that wants? Who am I that wants that thing? So that what we end up trying to do, unconsciously, unintentionally, is forcing and imposing our reality, forcing and imposing our idea of how we think life should be and what we think a relationship should be and what we think we want onto life. And we don't realize that we're ending up limiting life. We limit life with our projection. We limit life with our intentions. Because those intentions are coming from the ego, coming from the persona, coming from your identity, which is based on the conditioning of your past. In surrender, you're asking the question, what is it that life wants to express through me? What is it that the universe wants to express through me? What is it that the infinite wants to express through me? What is the deepest impulse of life that is seeking to express through me? And then acknowledging that, feeling that, aligning yourself with that, aligning your mind, your body, your intention with the deepest, most authentic impulse of your being, of your essence, of your soul. Then, as you align with that, then you can align your actions and your strategies and your mind and your creativity in terms of how to fulfill that. There's some misconceptions of surrender because in our culture today, we've been taught, we've been brainwashed to think that surrender is weak, surrender is passive, that surrender means you're going to be a doormat, you're going to be a victim, you're going to be left behind, you're going to be walked over, you're not going to manifest your goals, dreams, and desires. This is a myth that if you surrender, you're going to get less. I'm actually saying if you surrender, what if you got more? More than you could have imagined with your limited mind, more than you could have imagined with your limited ego. There's this thought that if you surrender, it means doing nothing. If you surrender, it means just going with the flow. But actually, sometimes surrender is saying no. Surrender, in terms of going with the flow, sometimes what we think of as the flow, or what we make an excuse of as the flow, is really our laziness. We're too afraid to take that step, so I'm just going to go with the flow of mediocrity. Surrender isn't just going with the flow or the flow of your mind, the flow of your ego. Sometimes surrender is reaching out of your comfort zone. Surrender is not the abdication of responsibility. Surrender is not taking action. Surrender is feeling your deepest truth, what's most authentic, and then taking action of what's aligned, not just what society tells you, or Instagram tells you, or social media tells you, or what your parent tells you. So when you feel what's true, when you feel what's authentic, even if it's scary, even if you don't know, even if you're not sure, surrender is to surrender to that, to accept that, to say yes to that, and move fully 100% in that direction without getting attached. It's not the action that's the issue, it's the attachment to the outcome that becomes the issue when you think that this is what life has to be. Sometimes the goal is not really the goal. The goal that you're going on is the necessary evolutionary puzzle piece. That goal is taking you on a journey. We end up thinking, no, it's the goal, but sometimes the goal is just the journey that you need to go on in order to grow and learn and evolve and learn the lessons you need to learn so that you can become who you need to be, so that you can develop the mental, the emotional, the psychological, the spiritual skills, so that you can be more prepared to be the one, to be the person who is capable of fulfilling that goal, dream, vision, and action. So your goals are evolutionary. So don't get attached to the goal that you have being the end outcome. That's how we put limits on life. So surrender is not to not take action, it's to take action but not get attached to the outcome, to the result, and not think that the outcome and the result is your end destination. When you surrender, you're open. When you surrender, you're curious. When you surrender, you're fully available and trusting that if what you want doesn't end up happening, if what you want and envision doesn't end up happening, yes, you give your all. Yes, you give 100%, but it's not about forcing. You see, surrender is really when you stop trying to control life to fit into your small idea of what you think life should be. Surrender is when you stop trying to force and fit life into your projection, your idea, your ego's concept. And we end up manipulating life, and we end up limiting life. Sometimes life is trying to give us way more, but we're like, no, it has to be like this. Surrender is when you stop trying, you give up the idea of how you think life should be, how you think you should be, so that you can open to what is actually seeking to happen. If you look back in your life, at a moment when maybe what you really wanted didn't happen, look back and think back to those moments, and think back to when something you wanted didn't happen and it worked out better than you could have imagined. Look back in your life when something you really wanted didn't happen, and maybe it didn't work out better than you could imagine initially, but then eventually it led you somewhere to meet someone to lead you to your soulmate. Right? Or think back to a moment in your life like a relationship where you really wanted something to happen. You really wanted that relationship to happen, and you fell in love and you got so attached that you projected into your future and you couldn't imagine any other outcome, and then it didn't. Maybe you broke up with that person. You were devastated. You were crushed. You couldn't imagine why life did this to you and took you years to get over it, but you got over it, and now you look back at that experience 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, and you think to yourself, wow, thank God that didn't happen. Sometimes not getting what you want is really grace. Sometimes not getting the outcome that you were so sure you wanted is the intelligence, wisdom, grace, and love of the universe. But when things don't happen, we're often not able to see it in the moment because we just want what we want from the limited prism, the limited lens of our ego. The ego is limited because it's limited based on the conditioning. It's a conditioned pattern that we identify with as ourself. So to surrender is the willingness when life doesn't go according to plan, or when something you've been efforting for doesn't happen. It's to not give up. What we tend to do in those moments is we tend to resist, we tend to force, we tend to push, we tend to manipulate, we collapse, we give up. We feel cursed, right? We feel depressed, disempowered because it's not happening. We think we're a failure. So in those moments, to surrender is to be willing to step back, is to be willing to trust that the universe is always working for your highest good. Even if you're not able to see it right now, that something better is working out on your behalf. This is surrender. And it's the willingness then to be curious. what we typically do in those moments when things don't go according to plan is we assign meaning. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. This is what it should be. This is what it's not. We think we know what something means, but often we don't, because the mechanism with which we are, shall we say, making meaning about an experience is the ego, which is limited. It is conditioned. So don't think to surrender is to give up this idea that you know what something is. And it's the willingness to be curious. Curiosity doesn't know. A child is curious. A child doesn't assign meaning to every single thing. A child is open, a child is curious. So surrender is the willingness to be curious. What could this mean? Okay, it's not happening the way I thought. What else could this mean? What else could be happening? What more amazing thing could be happening? Curiosity is a state of openness, and when you are open, you're available. Many times we don't realize we are pushing away. We're not available. We're blocking our blessing because we're so closed, living life with blinders. Where are you closed and living life with blinders and not even aware that you are? Maybe life is trying to bring you a blessing, but perhaps your soulmate, perhaps your purpose, perhaps your success, perhaps the next idea, perhaps your money, perhaps your investor doesn't come in the package that you have a preconceived idea of in your mind. Life is bigger than your mind. Life is bigger than your plans. Life is bigger than you. Life is bigger than your vision. Life is infinite. And when we surrender, you actually open yourself to the infinite possibilities of life unfolding. So surrender is not weak. Surrender requires courage. Surrender is not passive. Sometimes surrender will mean you work harder than you've ever worked. Look at Jesus, look at Buddha, look at Gandhi, look at Mother Teresa. They've surrendered and they worked. To surrender is not the abdication of responsibility. Oh, I'm just going to go with the flow and do whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. That is not surrender. That is just to be a slave to your mood. That is just to be a slave to your biology. Because sometimes surrender will require sacrifice and a level of dedication so that you can step up and grow up and live up and level up and share your gifts with the world. Folks, if you enjoyed this short video, share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel.